Welcome to First Impressions, Florida State 66, Kent State 10. This is Jerry Kutz, and I'm joined by Mark Salvo. Mark, quite the game.
Yeah, it was a weird day, right? Really hot. Big sun was out early. And then Florida State came out on fire. Dominated the game like they probably should have, but I mean, just some real impressive plays, big plays. And then this bizarre rain delay, lightning delay, I guess, kind of threw things in a little bit of a holding pattern. And then, just kind of had to finish out the game. I mean, at that point, the result was inevitable. And, but just really impressed again, like I said, last 2 weeks ago, that in the face of an overmatched opponent, to come out and play just good, sound football, everybody executing at a high level, regardless of the opponent. Mike said it yesterday when I was doing the victory walk, that, it's about us. It's not about the opponent. And they sure came out with that. And that's a great sign that this is a mature team, a team with good leadership, a team that's focused on what's important. Just overall, really, really impressed with just coming out and taking care of business the way they should have.
Yeah, you can say what you want about the opponent, but so much of football is focus, and they passed that test. I mean, 2 weeks in a row, they looked like they were a focused football team, virtually perfect on third down conversions. They were 9 of 10, and I think the one they didn't get was when they were running the clock out there at the end.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It's a school record for rushing yards. Mark, how many do they have?
Total rushing yards. They had 498 rushing yards, 9.2 yard per rush. Of course, Mekhi Danzy had one rush for 64, I think. Again, but look, and that's what they should do if they're the team we hope that they are. And it's really how many times have we played in a game like this where it's anybody really, you play in a game like this and you just kind of slop around and not totally focused. You're kind of looking ahead a little bit. You get penalties, which is concentration. You get holding calls, which is concentration. You get pass interferences, late hits, just missed tackles, drop passes. There was none of that. I mean, the execution of the offense was really spot on. I was there live, watching it from the back, from the end zone, and really looking at the offensive line. I was really focusing on Richie Pettibone and Richie Leonard and the offensive line, and just the intensity which they came out and started the game. Tommy Castellanos throwing some really sweet, deep balls.
Two of them, 50 yards from his point of release to the ball touched the receiver's hands. But
I mean, Danzy, we were talking about it during the game. Danzy, he might be one of the fastest guys we've ever had, if not the fastest guy we've ever had. I mean, that guy, he has unbelievable long speed and reminds us a lot of Tamarick Vanover when he came out of Tallahassee Leon back in, I guess, 92, I think it was. Just returning kicks, hitting reverses, long passes. Once he gets in the open field, you can't catch him. That's an exciting weapon to have amongst what looks like a lot of weapons on offense at the moment. So, yeah.
It's crazy. We'll get into that in just a second. But on Dancy, I said to my wife, at some point. He not only is he probably the fastest guy in college football, he's one of the fastest people in the world in the 400 meters. You know?
Right? Yeah, that
I
puts you in
mean,
the for sure. Um, yeah, he's definitely a weapon, and he's something that people are gonna have to pay attention to. You know what that does for us is it makes people defend because of how we use him. Because he can go vertical as a receiver or on a reverse. You got to cover deep and wide the whole field. You know, you got to stay at home on the backside, and that just and so you have that weapon. You know, keeping everybody honest on the backside. Not to mention your quarterback's keeping the ball, keeping you honest on the backside. I mean, this offense got if you're Gus Malzahn to me, and you say, give you draw up the perfect quarterback for my offense, it looks like Tommy Castellanos might be that guy, right? I mean, honestly, I'm impressed the way he's throwing the ball. He's putting it in really good spots. Obviously, he's a weapon running the ball. It's decision making, and then you know you throw out, okay, what other weapons do I need? I need good, hard running backs. You know, Sawchuk, Sam Singleton, Chroma, Cam Davis. I mean, those are guys that are really hard to bring down, really hard looking running. They're slashers who hit the holes hard. And look, you got to give a lot of credit to the offensive line. I mean, they are a totally different group than we've had in a couple of years. Just the way they go about their business. And let me tell you something. I'm a huge Richie Leonard fan. Huge Richie. I watch that guy. You know, there's things you see when you're at a game that you don't see like on TV. And me being in Nashville, not being able to get down as much as I like. One thing I noticed, Richie Leonard at the beginning of every offensive series, he sprints to the spot, to the ball. He beats everybody to the ball. And as everybody comes up, he's encouraging. He's high-fiving guys. He's telling them, let's go. I mean, I love that. I love that about that guy. And the fact that he produces. But everybody on that offensive line was producing today. And again, it wasn't the strongest defensive line we'll see by far, probably the weakest we'll see. But to go about your business and take care of it and do what you're supposed to do and not let the opponent dictate your level of play is a huge sign of maturity. It's a huge sign of leadership, and a huge sign that this group is focused on what's important.
Mark, you had a chance to meet Richie Leonard. What can you share with us about your first impression of him?
Well, yeah, I met him yesterday for the first time. You know, just to really, I mean, just you meet somebody for the first time like that, and you know, when I tell him who I am and that I played in 1987, it was my last year. My brother-in-law told me, you know, Mark, that's like you saying when you were playing, some guy come and say, yeah, I played in 1949, right? That was eye-opening. I'm like, yeah, he's probably looking at me like I have three heads. Like, who's this dude? Anyways, but he was humble and just really appreciative because I told him, I said, man, I'm just a big fan. I hate that you got hurt last year, and I'm really looking forward to watching you play this year. And he was very appreciative and humble about it. So seems like a great guy, and nothing he's ever said or done has ever counters that. So yeah.
So all those rushing yards are they're the product of some work that gets done up front. And you were fixated on Pettibone, the center, because that's the position you played and coached. And what are your impressions of him? And then I'm going to ask you after that about the freshman that he played the whole, part of the second quarter and the whole second half, the true freshman.
Well,
Sandman.
Talking with, I did get to talk to Coach Hand yesterday just briefly, and he was the one guy he brought up to me was that guy. That guy is the leader of the offensive line, Richie Pettibone. He said, he has a legacy of in a football family, and I guess his brother played at Alabama, and he says, the thing is that guy's going to have bragging rights for his in his family forever, after because of beating Alabama. But he said the guy is tough, hard as nails, smart, and watching him play, it's funny. Kent, unbeknownst, bewilderingly, played a lot of bare front, meaning they covered the center and both guards with a single linebacker, which is something you generally do if you're going to play a lot of single high man free kind of coverages, where you're going to play a lot, and that probably explains what some of the long plays we had. But it also means that, when you run that front, you're kind of weak in the A gaps. And And so that means your centers and guards have to be really strong in the running game. That's where we hit a lot of runs in that little soft spot. And through no fault of him and the two guards, really doing a good job. Getting movement in the middle of the defense. Then in pass protection, you see like a good center does. He's got his head on a swivel. He's on even levels with his guards. You see him feel the nose guard and the guy he's looking, but his eyes are in another responsibility. So he's not just leaving somebody out on an island. So a player with a lot of feel. Physical. Again, the real test is going to come now in the next several weeks, and we'll see what they got. But you know what? He was that way. They were all that way at Alabama too. So I would expect nothing but excellence coming from this group. Knock on wood, they stay healthy and can play 12 games together. But him being a leader, it's it's an offensive line coach. You wanted your center to be that guy. You wanted your center to be the CPU of the offensive line. Seeing both sides, making calls, directing the protections, calling out the schemes. Just being the leader of that group. And you have that guy. You have the makings of a really strong offensive line unit for sure.
Yeah. We're going to get back to Chavez Thompson, who came in there to play a lot. And he played the last game a lot. And they didn't play the Harvard kid there. They played him at guard, Rizzi. They're playing Rizzi at both guards. But it tells me that Hand, who recruited Chavez Thompson to UCF, and then he transferred up here. He didn't transfer. He committed up here. He's a true freshman. And he's played a lot of minutes the last two games. And that tells me that's the guy that Herb Hand is grooming to be the next center.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got ability. You can see he's a little raw on some things, but I like his look. I like his build for sure.
Bill looked like Jamie Dukes.
Yeah, I mean he's got the bulk, but he's got the quick feet, sitting his hips really well. I mean he's got the tools for sure. Obviously he's a little raw. He'll learn to play more physical, but he's definitely a really good prospect. May he be here for a long time and be very successful, right? You never know this era.
But you got to, like Mickey Andrews said many years ago, you got to build next year's team this year.
Yeah.
And if you have them and you can get them these reps like they have in the last two games, that's great film for you as a coach, isn't it? To take that freshman in the film room and show him where he's raw.
Yeah, I mean, look, the schedule really sets up for us really well. To have the big game, be able to prepare all summer for the big game, the first game of the year. To have the two, games that we've had plus a open week in the middle as we transition into this next difficult part where we have a league game next week against Virginia at Virginia, and then we'll see what happens tonight. But regardless, it's a Florida State Miami game, and then the rest of the meat of our schedule. It's really set up well for us, even though it is a quick turnaround. With a Friday night game next week. The fact that these guys only had to play, our starters only had to play barely a half and had the production they had is really an advantage for us, even though we're going on the road. So that schedule really sets up well. Looking forward to we kind of put the marker on the table. Obviously a number 7 ranking, people kind of agree with that. And, our destiny is in our hands, and that's more than you can say, especially with Clemson having the issues that they're having now. Of course, other teams have emerged in the conference. Syracuse, kind of look. I mean, they deserve that game 100%. The little bit I saw. So, and I know NC State's 3-0, I think, right now. Georgia Tech obviously has earned it. So this league is looking competitive, and not from the teams that everybody thought, which I think is pretty cool, right? Again, we'll see what happens tonight in Coral Gables, but the good news is our destiny is in our hands.
So, Mark, let me ask you two questions. I'll separate them if I can remember the second question. But the first thing is, we talk about this being a short week, but in reality, you've had 2 weeks in a bye, between between Alabama and this game at Virginia that's coming up. I would think you could install a lot during those 3 weeks for Virginia. So I don't know that you're playing behind today.
No. In fact, as I was watching this game, I was thinking about that. There's one thing I saw today that I haven't seen in a long time. I haven't seen from anybody. Nobody runs this play anymore. We ran a lot of draws today.
Yeah,
right? We ran a lot of draws, which for those of you that followed this program and have followed it for years, we were a big sprint draw team for years and years out of the eye. And, I love that series. I love the sprint draw series where the quarterback turns his back, deep fake, and then you pop up with the ball. Does he have the ball? I mean, it just freezes the feet of those linebackers, just long enough to get good square ends, underneath routes, corner routes, out routes, whatever. There's a lot of great play action that comes off of that action. And, we ran more draws today than I think I've ever seen. I don't see anybody really run draws anymore. It's all RPOs and quarterback keeps and all that kind of stuff. But we ran draws today, which to me was a little bit unusual, and it got me thinking about a sprint draw in a sprint draw series, play action pass series out of that. So are we setting up that kind of stuff? Again, Gus is very good about setting up things, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if this was setting up some kind of stuff for these next few games with that action, and then of course spreading the ball out like he did. So that's to your point. Look, I remember times when we had games like this leading up to even Miami. I remember one instance in particular. We were practicing and we played a game like this, and after the first series, guys coming off the field saying, "Coach, they're not running anything we practice." I'm like, imagine that. I don't know what's happening. They must have changed the offense. When in reality, we were practicing a 4-3 the whole week. We'd have periods where we practiced nothing but a 4-3, getting ready for Miami, right? So, right. Unbeknownst to the kids, that's what we were doing, getting them used to the look. So I'm sure there was a lot of that kind of thing going on these last couple of weeks. I'd be surprised if there wasn't. I'm sure defense doing the same thing, mixing in plays that maybe this team didn't run, that other teams that we're getting ready to play do run. It's a little bit of a risk, but if you have a mature team and the talent disparity is big enough, you can get away with it sometimes.
So on that same point, now when you were at South Carolina or at Florida State, did you have a Friday game after a home game?
Not that I can remember. No, I don't think that was a thing back. Usually the Friday game was like a MAC game or something like that. So when I coached it, that wasn't a thing for
we had the Thursday game, I think, at Virginia.
Yeah.
And we probably had a bye the week before that.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a 4-day.
I never did a short week as a coach back then. It wasn't a thing for us. I remember that Louisville game that we lost in the rain. That was a Thursday night game. That was after I got out of coaching, but so that's when it became a thing. But to your point, I think more than likely you're going to have a bye the week before if you're going to play that short a turnaround.
Now, what would you guess Mike's week will look like this week? And then we'll go back to the game. But what would you expect him to change with a Friday night?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
you're going to fly up there on Thursday, right?
Yeah, you're going to fly up on Thursday. I imagine you do pretty much everything about the same. You have your hard day on your hard day. Your third down day on which for us was always on Wednesday. I imagine they do a similar kind of thing. They probably do the same thing. Maybe tone it down a little bit, but again, the starters only played a half, so right. You might not have to do a whole lot. and just and we practice in the morning anyways, so you're still going to get. I don't think it. Yeah, I don't think you're going to get a lot of a huge change, honestly, because I don't think you need to.
You could practice Thursday morning and board the plane and
Yeah.
Let's go back to the game. I wanted to ask you about the offensive line. This is a thought that is in my mind. Certainly, the defensive line you're facing can dictate, and you've got to win that battle. But is it half the battle with an offensive line working together? Isn't it more about us than it is about the opponent?
Oh yeah, 100%. And again, that was Mike's message to the team, Friday, as we were doing the walk. So for those that don't know, former players can meet the team on the stadium field before they go away for the night, and they have meetings all that afternoon, and they come to the field and they lock arms, and they walk from one end of the field to the other. And Mike's instruction is, envision your performance tomorrow, and but his message there was, to us as former players was, we put in the work. It's all about us, regardless of who the opponent is, and that was kind of what he told us as former players. And as the players do that, the ex-players that are there that can meet us, we lock arms also, and we walk behind them. And his message to us is to remember your time here, and to remember the plays that you made as you support these guys as we walk behind them. And then we go in the other end zone, and it's just players and former players. We introduce ourselves. We tell them who we are, what position we play, what number we are, just to have a connection with them, which is a really cool thing that Mike does. And and if we want to say something to the team, we can say something to the team. But again, that was the message. Was it's about us, regardless to who the opponent is. And as a player, you hear that, and you know what? That gives you great confidence, because we're good enough. We're good enough to beat anybody on our schedule if we do the things we're supposed to do, if we execute, if we play and strain our potential and play as good as we can. There should be nobody that can beat us. So it isn't about who we play. It's about us. It's about us being disciplined. It's about us playing hard. It's about us doing our jobs. It's about knowing and loving and trusting the guy next to you. It's all about those things. And as corny as all that sounds, it's the truth, because this roster appears good enough to beat anybody on our schedule if we do those things. So, if that's the message that's continually in those guys' ear, that should give you confidence to know that that anybody we line up against, we're good enough to beat. It's up to us to do it. And if it's in your control, how many times have you ever heard the cliche, you can only control what you can control? Well, we can control it because we're good enough. And that's reassuring for sure.
Back in the day, you guys talked about putting a hat on a hat, getting the hat on the right guy. And a lot of it is that, isn't it? Just executing the play that's called.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's and defensively too. So we hadn't talked about the defense much, and they're flying around. One mental lapse led to their touchdown, and I'm sure that will be played over and over again. That's a shame. Be that as, and then another mental lapse on the roughing the punter. Put them in field position to get a field goal. So, that's a good lesson to learn. That's all it takes, right? One undisciplined moment can lead to something that's, disastrous in terms of the result. And so, great film, great teaching, great lesson to learn. Again, you control what you control. Keep your eyes where they're supposed to be. Do your job. Don't overcommit. All those kinds of things. But again, defensively, I love the effort. Is one thing that really stuck out to me, especially live, that I think has been missing the last several years. These guys tackle really well.
Yeah.
They're formed. Their feet are under them when they're making contact, as opposed to diving at ankles and reaching out with arms. These guys are running into guys with their feet under them. Making collisions and bringing guys to the ground. it's the best tackling I've seen in years. And, defensive staff gets a ton of credit in my book for that. Not only that, I think the effort is outstanding. They're playing fast. I don't see a lot of indecision, which tells me that the scheme is simple enough, the adjustments are simple enough that they're not having to think a lot, that they're reacting to what they see, and they know what their keys are. And when you know what your keys are and you see it and you can react fast, I mean, look, when you got athletes on defense, that's the best thing you can do for them, right? That was Mickey's philosophy, right? Put your hand on the ground and go get it. Attack the quarterback, cover the receiver, and swarm to the ball. The defense is not hard. That's what it is. Now, there is gap control and there's adjustments you got to make and all that kind of stuff. But the simpler you make those kinds of things, if you got great athletes on defense, you've got something. And it looks like that Tony has this defense that way, and it's I'm excited to see how we match up now against some better competition moving forward.
Yeah, we're coming out of the preseason, right? The exhibition games.
100%.
Now we're going to play big boy football for several weeks, and we'll know a lot more after the Virginia game for sure.
Yeah.
On the defensive side of the ball, they continue to play a lot of people and rotating defensive linemen. Pursuit, you're seeing a lot of pursuit, and got a turnover tonight. The thing on offense with the offensive lineman, to go back to that, we had one holding penalty, and I don't think we had a false start.
Hadn't seen them all year. So yeah, the discipline there, and I've said it here on this show before that penalties are coaching. It's technique, it's effort. When you're lazy and when your technique is bad, you're reaching, you're grabbing, you're not concentrating, you don't know what you're doing, there's indecision on what you're supposed to do, so you're not paying attention to the snap count. Those are when those kinds of things happen. When you're dialed in, locked in, know what you're supposed to do, know what your technique is, you can concentrate on the things that you need to concentrate on. Those penalties don't happen. So to me, that's what that shows. And it's the same thing on defense. You don't see a lot of ticky-tacky little fouls. You don't see late hits out of bounds. You don't see, that's technique, that's coaching, that's angles, right? That's, they had the one face mask, from the freshman, on defensive end. That was, again, what was it? He was reaching out and grabbing, right? And so was in position to make a great play, but undisciplined with the grab of the face mask. So those are the things that, again, that's coaching. So encouraged by that, and it's not like we're not ever going to have penalties, but
right.
You're not getting those dead ball fouls. You're not getting, if we get something, it's an effort deal. Those are the ones you live with.
I thought we got away with a celebration penalty that they could have thrown on us after that Jerry Wilson interception. That was kind of hysterical, but they can throw that flag against Miami if you do something like that.
100%.
I'm sure they'll talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, there's not a lot of talk about this game. I mean, it was an over opponent. It was us going out taking care of business, and great job by Mike and the staff for keeping the guys focused. Great job by the guys and the leadership on the team, the player leadership on making sure everybody has head on straight and doing what they're supposed to do. Because again, how many times have we gone out in games like this and just slopped it around?
Many.
Everybody does.
Even good teams, even some of our best teams on occasion did.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
How about this? No punts in 2 consecutive games. That's amazing.
Is that right?
Yep, 2 consecutive games, no punts.
Who is our punter? I don't even know.
And I don't want to know.
Right.
Chimienta. So the question is, he's a pretty good punter. He's been around here a couple of years, and he often looked his punts were very good the last couple of years in practice. So he's legit, but man, he's going to get into a game and he's not going to know what to do.
let's hope we don't need him.
Yeah.
Let's down that road.
Well, another exciting, fun day for Florida State fans. A lot of records were broken today, and we prepare to go to Virginia. And any thoughts, Mark, before we sign out? Closing remarks?
Yeah, just I really like this team. Just like what they've shown up to this point. It's easy. It's easy when you're winning. Of course, we're 3-0 and everything's going great, and so everything's honky dory. But it's the things that good football teams do that this team does, and they do those things. They do they check all the boxes on that kind of stuff, because especially these last 2 weeks, it would have been easy not to. And I hope that the hunger that they showed prior to the Alabama game to prove everybody wrong and to show everybody what we're about. I love what Juice said after the Alabama game, that nobody in that locker room was surprised by what happened in that Alabama game. And so my hope is that attitude continues moving forward as we get into the meat of our schedule. Virginia is going to be a tough test. It's a different atmosphere. The wine and cheese crowd of Virginia, right? On a Friday night. So there's going to be some things there that are going to kind of stack up against us in terms of atmosphere and of course you got the Miami game looming. And so, can we stay focused enough? Everything up to this point that I've seen tells me that I fully expect this team to be focused and that our leadership will make sure everybody is on the same page and ready to go for Virginia. I don't think we'll take them lightly. At least I hope we don't. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next several weeks.
You talk about the wine and cheese crowd at Virginia. I have a story I like that. First of all, I was surprised at the crowd at Virginia. You think they're all going to be these brainiacs, but surrounding Charlottesville, you're in the middle of Appalachia there. Yeah. And there's some characters that come into that stadium that are, they're pretty cranked up country people. And we were pulling in on the buses. This had to be like, well, you were probably on the coach's bus in 92?
92, yeah.
And there's a story about that. Remember they were rocking the buses, the fans at Virginia were rocking the buses. And Gene Deckerhoff was sitting next to Rob Wilson, and he's at the window and Rob's sitting next to him, and all the Virginia fans are going crazy. And Deckerhoff says, "Hey, Rob, look out the window there. I didn't know there were this many one-fingered Virginians."
That's classic Gene Deckerhoff right there, brother.
I'm telling you, man. But yeah, it's a different atmosphere, and it's like Mike says, you have to be prepared for unusual circumstances, and so hopefully this team, they haven't played on the road yet, so that'll be different, and we're going to find out. We'll find out. But Mark, it's been great, and Florida State 66, Kent State 10. You want to take us out?
Go Noles. Let's go get them. Good job, guys.
Thank you.